right. Well, welcome everyone to the Compass event by Founders Table. So happy to have you here tonight. Actually, I'll share my screen real quick because I'm going to review the agenda real quick with you so you have an idea of what to expect. So tonight, first off, we're going to hear from Prabha Mitchell. That's the CEO of WESC. Then I'll jump back in and I'll talk about some of the new supports that Founders Table has to offer. And then we have some special guests tonight. So we've got Anu from Co.Labs, we've got Hannah from Cultivator, we've got Aaron from SaskTech. They're all going to talk about what their organizations have to offer, and they also have some topics that we've asked them to speak on to bring some wisdom to you tonight. So I think with that, I'll hand it over to Prabha.
Hey, thank you, Kara. Welcome everyone. This is really exciting. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard of WESC. So bear with me while I say a few words about the organization, what we do. Excited about having you here. WESC has been around for about 26 years, and we support women start and grow a business. And over the 26 years, we've supported women-owned businesses with about over 38 million and over about 150 businesses. About 2 years ago, we saw an interesting trend, an exciting trend. We saw a large number of women in the tech space, opening up tech businesses. And we thought it was really important for us in Saskatchewan to build an ecosystem and a support system where women in tech could actually build thriving businesses. The tech space is still very much dominated by men, and it's only about, female founders account for about 6% of owners in the tech space. So we have a tremendous opportunity in Saskatchewan to move that needle and grow that community. And I say that we have a tremendous opportunity in Saskatchewan to actually become the tech hub in North America and maybe even beyond. And I say that because we have an incredible ecosystem of key players in our community where we can not only grow the number of women-owned businesses in technology, but we can also draw investment attraction from outside of our province because we have some really innovative women-owned businesses in technology. And today you'll get to hear from some of our key stakeholders in the ecosystem. These are organizations and people that are really critical in shaping that ecosystem that could potentially make us one of the leaders in around building a tech hub in North America. So I hope you enjoyed this evening, and I hope you learn a lot from this evening. Thank you again for being here, and I turn it over back to Kara.
Thanks, Prabha. So I think what I'm going to do right off the bat here is I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you just a page on our website real quick. So this is our Founders Table page on our website. You can just go to west.ca in the program section, just hit Founders Table, and voila, you're there. The reason why I'm bringing you to this page today is to talk about these boxes here. So some of it is what we've had around for a little while. Some of it's brand new, and that's what I wanted to chat with you about today. So Mastermind Groups, that's something that's a bit new for us. So this is for women in any stage of their tech journey. And it's for women to support each other. And WESC will provide some additional learning during that. But if you are an owner or if you are helping manage a tech company and you're a woman, this is a group that you might find very helpful. So the next intake for these cohorts will be this summer for a fall start. And then the next piece is the tech advising. So this is one-on-one support with the business advisor, and members of the Mastermind Groups or WESC members get unlimited business advising. So if you need help getting your business launched, then that's where you can get that one-on-one support. The next piece is the Tech Hub. So this is pretty exciting. So I'm not sure if you heard, but last year we launched up here at the top here, our resource library. There is a lot in our resource library now if you're an entrepreneur. But we are also launching a special part of that resource library called the Tech Hub. So any resource that we can find that's related, that will be helpful to a woman starting a tech business, That's where you're going to find that information. And it's going to be from all partners all over the place. And the nice thing about this hub is that if you're a WESC member, you can also submit resources that you found helpful. So you can start sharing with the community as well. And then we have some special events like today, the Compass event. Then we have the Idea Validation Workshop series. So that's going to be registration opening up in February. And that's to really just kind of figure out if the idea that you've got in your head is feasible, and maybe getting you to do a couple of steps to make that business a reality and point you in the right direction of what you can do to get started. And after that is the Tech Loan Fund. So this is kind of exciting, where sometimes if you're not ready for investors or you're not interested yet, and you want to just get like a micro loan or just a term loan just to get yourself started, this is something that we can help you with now. So if you're interested in something like that, I know it says coming soon down here, but you can actually reach out right now and we can get started. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the Founders Table page, right at the bottom here, you're going to see my name and my email address and phone number, and you can reach out to me anytime with questions about that. And even about questions about this presentation tonight, because I know we're a bit short on time. So questions might be a bit tricky to get to. So if not, reach out to me by that. And I can also connect you with our presenters today as well. So I'm done talking about my bit. So I'm going to hand it over to Anu from Co.Labs for her presentation.
Okay, let me share my screen first. All right, can you all see my screen? Well, thanks for the intro and for the speaking opportunity today, Kara, Prabha, and everyone else on the WESC team. I've always been a huge fan and a supporter of what you guys do at WESC to empower women entrepreneurs. And I always try to make sure to give you guys a shout out during our events and our programs here at Co.Labs as well. So to begin, I have a little bit about myself. Well, I'm Anu. I'm the program coordinator here at Co.Labs. And some of my past experiences include working at one of the premier tech incubators called Incubator out of India that primarily works with deep tech companies. And I was also part of the faculty at the British College, which is a partner university of the West of England, Bristol. Well, before we begin to talk about business ideas and strategies today, I just want to make sure that you all can see my screen properly.
We can.
Okay, thanks. So I just want to highlight some of the big things that are happening in the Prairies tech ecosystem here, because, whether it's Vendasta's record rounds of securing $119.5 million in venture funding or its 7 shifts in Coconut Series B raise, we sure know about one thing, that the tech sector is really thriving in the Prairies. And now is the time to found a company and set up your business, because there are so many resources available for you to help turn that idea into an established business. And I would say now is the time to act, because, for instance, there are nonprofits like Co.Labs, and we're dedicated to help startups grow. We work with high potential and high performing founders to take their technology from idea to $1 million in annual revenue. And we do that in under 3 years. And what's cool about Co.Labs is that we're an independent nonprofit, and then we don't charge in equity and we don't charge in fees. In other words, it's all there for free. So I also have some metrics here. As you can see, we have generated $24 million in revenue till date. We have incubated 145 startups. We have $18 million in venture capital raised and created 457 jobs so far. Now, I want to briefly run you through the various programs at Co.Labs. These are the 4 flagship programs. And as you can see, Co.Learn is what we call the top of the funnel program. So for Co.Learn, we organize 2 summits in a year. The first one is the Founders Summit, which is, by the way, happening next week on the 26th. So if you haven't signed up already, go to our website and sign up, because you wouldn't want to miss this, especially if you're an aspiring founder. So that's the Founder Summit. And the second summit is the Employee Summit, that is targeted more towards people that are looking to become like tech founders or tech employees. Well, both of these summits are targeted towards individuals that are like looking to break a career into tech, whether as a founder or an employee. So what we do is we bring in industry experts to share about their journeys, and we also organize like panel discussions. And that's the first program. The second one is Co-Launch, which is the 14 weeks acceleration program. And Co-Launch is all about companies that are in the idea and prototype stage. And here, what we do is we help teach what founders need to know, like from market validation, could be product or sales. And towards the end of those 14 weeks, we give away 20K in non-dilutive funding to the winning startup. And the next program is the Co-Link program, which is for the post-validated startups with some market traction. And through this program, we provide everything the startup needs to scale. It's our residential program. So we provide office space, expert services, we provide discounts to different professional services, we provide mentorship, and so on and so forth. And the final program, as you can see here, is the Co-Lead program, which is for tech startups that are experiencing rapid user growth. And it's all about building a robust community. So for Co-Lead, we provide all of the things that we provide for Co-Link companies until they hit the 1 million in annual recurring revenue mark. And then once they reach that mark, they graduate out of Co.Labs. Yeah, at Co.Labs, we're all about building the community, and we try to make sure that we're all surrounded and you are surrounded with the top founders and mentors and supporters in the Saskatchewan as well as the global tech ecosystem. Here, let's talk about tech startups and some must-know tidbits of info for aspiring entrepreneurs. All right, first of all, what is a tech company? To answer that question, I think I'd say any company that uses technology or that creates an advantage in terms of product uniqueness or scale or improved margins will be qualified as a tech company. It could be a hardware company or it could be a software company that there are some examples like Zoom or Uber, or it could be a company that simply produces hardware with some sort of technology inbuilt like EVs or various farming equipments. So as long as you have these technology components in your company, then you will be qualified as a tech company. Now let's talk about the founder mindset and see if you have it in you, what it takes to be a tech founder. So this is one thing that I always tell people that are looking to found a company. Are you one of those people who is like constantly looking to solve problems and is constantly coming up with ways to form new ideas for businesses? Are you a problem solver? This is something that you need to ask yourself. A successful entrepreneur is really a person that is very, very good at solving problems. And to be honest, some of the best companies that are out there today were the results of just normal people solving real problems. So you all may have heard of the Airbnb story, for instance, how those three guys just disrupted the rentals industry and made billions, which actually started as a quest to solve the problem of not finding a decent room to rent. And all they did was begin with the idea of putting an air mattress in their living room and turning it into a bed and breakfast, and see where they are today. So I just want to say that big or small, as long as your idea solves a real problem, I think your ideas matter. Here, I'd say just document everything, there are different people always coming up with different problems. And then if you can, what I say is, if there's a problem, there's a solution. And wherever there's a solution, there's an opportunity. Maybe at work or maybe at home, if you think there are different problems that you face day in and day out, and if you're constantly thinking of how to solve those problems, then start like an idea journal to begin with, and that'll be really, really helpful. It's also helpful to know if your ideas are in real painkillers that will reduce the pain points for your customers, or is it a vitamin that enhances people's experience? And more often, if it's a painkiller, then I'd say you might have a real shot at pursuing that idea. Here are some of the components of an idea that's a painkiller, or it might as well be a vitamin. So if it does one or more of these things that are listed here on this slide, if it saves you money, whether by making operations and processes more efficient, or let's say it's taking down the cost by any other means, or if it adds convenience in your day-to-day life, just like how Amazon has taken the online shopping experience to a very different level for us, or see if it has some component of a social business, like saving the planet or people, some sort of sustainable component, then you're probably solving one of the most important problems. And then those are the problems that really matter. So once you're sure about the idea that you want to pursue, the next step is really to validate your idea. And like Steve Blank said in one of his books, The 4 Steps to the Epiphany, which is, by the way, one of my favorite startup books, there are no answers in the building. So go out and talk to people that could be your customers, and talk to people that are actually willing to pay out of their pockets to buy your product or service. Now, this can be done through detailed interviews or observations and immersing in deep conversations about the problems that the customers might be facing, rather than asking if they like your business idea or not. And once you're sure about the idea that you want to pursue and you've already validated your idea with your customers, now is the time to start building your company and to turn your idea into a viable business. So all you need is a winning strategy at this point. And at the end of the day, you are in it to win it. So you need a winning strategy. So the first step here is to really understand who your target market is. And it also helps to pick a location with high growth potential for the obvious reasons. So starting with the market size, find out how big is the market, how many people are experiencing this problem, and then find out if there are people that are actually willing to spend money out of their pockets to solve this problem. And then also find out how often does this problem occur for them. And then if you think that you have a significant number there, then there is a real opportunity right there. And then you have an idea of what your opportunity looks like, and you have the idea of the size of the opportunity as well. Now, the next step is to see if there are any other players in the market that are offering a similar solution as yours. So just analyze your competition. Maybe it's better to collaborate with your competitor. If the competitor is a huge one, and if they've been in the market for too long, then maybe it's just better to collaborate with them than competing with them. And also, if there are any sort of like intellectual property right that you want to obtain, for example, now that's a process that might take you years sometimes. So are you willing to take it slow? Are you willing to like build a moat, build everything piece by piece, or are you willing to storm a hill? Meaning, do you want to like commercialize very quickly? So those are the things that you need to decide before you enter the market. And finally, you have to identify a value proposition that you are offering to your customers, right? You have to be able to explain how your product is relevant and how your product solves customer problems or even improves their situation. So there must be some sort of a differentiation factor between your product and your competitors. You have to be unique in some way. Tell the ideal customer why they should buy from you and not from your competition, and what is so unique about it. So there has to be a unique component. And now that you've understood your target market, you've analyzed your competitors and identified your unique sort of value proposition, the next steps are just to build your product. Always start with an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. Don't build a full-fledged product, because you always have to start with building like a minimal viable product that can solve your problem, that is easy to build, that is cheap to build, because you don't want to spend all that resources, energy, time, and money to build the final product just yet. So build an MVP and see if it can get you any traction, because having traction is really, really important. And it is actually one of the key things that we consider at Co.Labs before accepting any companies to our programs as well. So once you start gaining some market traction, that's the real indication that you have a shot there. And then once you have some market traction, that's the time to start building your team. I'm sure Aaron is going to like cover more on that, so I'm not going to touch on that. And then perhaps that's the time to start raising your capital as well. So just so you guys know, here are some of the parting thoughts. Love your customers and your problem. Don't fall in love with the solution. Don't be afraid to be iterative. Don't be afraid to fail. try a lot of experiments. And while you do it, be purposeful, make sure that you enjoy the ride. And in order to turn your ideas into reality, join an incubator, because your odds or your chances of becoming successful are doubled when you join an incubator. So joining an incubator is always a good idea as well. So co-launch applications are open. It's open until January 25th. And if you have an idea that has been brewing in your mind for some time, all you need is an idea to apply for the co-launch program. So go to our website to apply for the co-launch program. And we also have Co-Learn Founder Summit next week on the 26th of January. And if you're an aspiring founder, then you'll find a lot of value in this program, in this Founder Summit as well. And that is all. Thank you very much, and feel free to contact us. That's our website, and that's the email, hello@collabs.com.ca, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have when you reach out. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Anu. And before you turn your camera off, I have a quick question for you. I know Co.Labs is hosting an info session. I think it's tomorrow night for the co-launch program, right?
We are, yes.
So if somebody's interested, do they just go to the website to sign up?
Well, they can reach out to me or reach out to hello@collabs.ca, okay, and I'll send them the link.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much, Anu. And I think what I'll do now is I'll hand it straight over to Hannah over at Cultivator.
Perfect. All right. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you. Thanks for joining on this blurry Wednesday. I'm sitting beside a window and my hands are freezing, so mistakes were obviously made on my part. So I hope you can all see my screen. If you can't, let me know in the chat. I'm gonna just drop a couple things in the chat as we go. I've got some resources, some links, and things to our website, such and such and such. So watch out for that. So as we get started, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but for those of you that are here, I would absolutely love to know, like, where are you joining us from? Why are you excited about this? Why did you want to be here tonight? And then, of course, if you have questions throughout while I'm chit-chatting, I'm totally happy to answer them at the end. So I won't take up too much of your time. And of course, I'm here to chat with you specifically. So as Kara said, thanks for introducing me. My name is Hannah Castle. I'm the program manager here at Cultivator. So business incubator out of Regina, Saskatchewan. We've been around for just about 3 years. I'm also a member of the Council for Entrepreneurial Growth. So Audacity through the city of Regina. So basically what I'm trying to say is I'm just a girl from Regina who's really excited about growing the province. So I'll drop my LinkedIn in here for you as well. So if you want to connect, you can take a peek at that. Perfect. So I'll get right into it. And I always get to, I always feel like when I get to go after Co.Labs because they explain a lot about what we do as incubators and of course about startups. And so it's really nice to go after it's defined. But basically, what we do as an incubator, so of course the incubator accelerator model has existed all over the world for a really long time. Regina, of course, being a little bit behind on fashion, trends, cool things. As always, we were the last major city to have an incubator actually. So we're pretty fresh in our incubator journey, but we're quite proud of where we've come from. So in a nutshell, what do we do? What does an incubator do? And that, of course, is we grow SK startups. And I think the word startup can be interpreted a few ways, but I think what we really mean here at Cultivator is we grow businesses that are tech-enabled, that are poised to grow. So how can you really grow at a fast pace? And what can we do to remove those obstacles for you? And very similar to Co.Labs, we have application-based programming. So we have our START program that runs for 12 weeks. It happens twice a year, and that's the early stage. We don't like to say pre-revenue. There's quite a few options or different founders that happen, levels that happen in there. We have our Grow program that's 18 to 24 months for companies that are generating revenue, have product and market, and maybe working full-time. Then we do have a Scale program. That's for companies that are generating a significant amount of revenue. They maybe had a significant injection of capital, and that's a 12-month program. And so I'll just back to those really quick and I'll talk about ag tech briefly, but what we'd like to say is that START is maybe like more of a one-to-many program. So it's a weekly session, it's evenings and weekends, it's a lot of content for you, similar to the experience you're having now. Grow is more of like a one-to-few. So we maybe separate companies by business model. We bring in specific experts based on existing problems. You're going to hear from Aaron Janae here in a minute, and he's actually going to speak to our Grow cohort next week. So really focusing on how we can solve problems for those founders in the moment. And then we do have a Scale program, and that's for companies that are, like I said, generating a lot of revenue, but that's more of a one-to-one program. So that's when we work really closely with founders one-on-one, and a lot of that program is catered to them. And if you do follow us on any kind of social media, we have some crazy announcements coming out about our ag tech program. you can definitely read more on our website. We do have an ag tech accelerator starting up. Your applications are closed for this year, but it will run every year. It's a venture-backed program in tandem with Emertech, which is the Connexus Venture Capital Fund now in ag, and then of course Economic Development Regina, Innovation Sask, Innovate UK, U of S, and U of R. So lots happening in the ag tech space as well. And of course, like I said, super happy to answer any questions. I'll run through this briefly, but how does it work? So how does an incubator work? It's hard to understand. I know definitely for me, pre coming over to Cultivator, I was like, this sounds super cool, but like, I don't really get it. And so one big thing that we do here at Cultivator is we have a really beautiful space in the Connexus head office. So we're Canada's first credit union led incubator. We're proudly powered by Connexus Credit Union. And we get to work at a beautiful space on College Avenue. And we want to make sure that founders aren't working at Starbucks or in their mom's basement. They have a place to come and meet an amazing community. So we have a community of founders, mentors, experts. And we also host sessions and events. We've got services, we've got partners like legal and residence, CFO and residence, lots of people that can help remove obstacles for you. And then we also work with founders for access to capital. So we do work with the Connexus Venture Capital Fund and a few other capital partners here in the province and across Canada. So that's kind of how it works. And once again, please ask questions. I'm so happy to answer. Just a quick snapshot of some of the mentors we've had come through our doors in the last few years. So you might recognize some of these names. Some are a little bit more global, some are here, but some work for companies that are maybe from Saskatchewan that have really started to boom. You know, like Elise Taylor from Seven Shifts is a big partner of ours. She talks a ton about customer discovery, which I'm going to jump into in just a second here. Oh, I think there's a question. So I'm just going to pull up my Q&A box here. I applied to Cultivator and co-launch, was not accepted, and the feedback was provided that my idea did not have enough traction. Isn't that the purpose of the incubator? I'm not quite sure if I've looked at your application recently. I just highly encourage you to email hello@cultivator.ca, and hopefully we can give you a little bit more clarity. One thing I can say when you do apply for the incubator, because they're application based, is a lot of the time what we're working on is building the specific cohort of a group of people that are going to work together really well. And that changes quite a bit. So maybe one cohort we ran is like really pre-revenue, one cohort we ran is maybe more revenue. So sometimes I think it's a little bit more in the timing than it is in the idea, but I'm going to share a lot of resources. I highly recommend you to look at them and keep digging and just keep working on drilling down on that problem. And I hope that will help a little bit, but I'd like to encourage you to reach out to hello@cultivator.ca and hopefully we can help with that. If that didn't answer your question, please feel free to send me a message. Here's just a snapshot of some of the companies that we have active in the incubator right now. So you might recognize some of those names, but I specifically wanted to highlight something here tonight, which is these are the metrics that we're proud to share heading into Q1 of 2022, which is we've had quite a few companies come through our doors last 3 years. We've had 81, but really lucky for us, something that we've had an amazing journey with is this is the amount of female founded companies that we've supported. So 29 over the last 3 years. This is well above, I think, that percentage that Prabha had mentioned earlier in the night. And we're not trying to say that all these companies maybe are operating right now or they pursued their idea, but we've really worked hard to ensure that we have a place for female founders. So super proud of this. You probably recognize a lot of these companies, but I wanted to just showcase it for the group here tonight. So with that, I'm going to just take a few more minutes and then I'll pass it back to the lovely team at West. And I just want to talk a little bit about the methodology. And I think something that we've really worked on at Cultivator is this concept of becoming super like customer obsessed. So we work with all of our founders to talk to them a ton about talking to their users and how their users need to drive the growth of their business. And something that we always come back to is this concept from Ash Meyer. And if you don't know who Ash Meyer is, he has an amazing book series, starting with Running Lean. He has an amazing blog series all about Lean Stack is his tool. And they just talk a lot about falling in love with the problem and how sorry, I skipped a slide there. Continuously uncovering problems and addressing them before your competitors do is really the number one way to stay edgy, if we want to use maybe a trendy word. So we're not about solutions, we're about problems, but most importantly, we're really fascinated by customers. And how do you learn about your customers is always a question that I think comes up, which is, there's phases of customer discovery and so much will happen between when you come up with an idea and when you build your solution. And something I think is kind of painful, what we should talk about really, publicly is that 42% of businesses fail due to there being no market need for their product. And that's from a study I'll drop in the chat here as well. But what's happening and what we see with startups is we have these amazing ideas, and lots of times founders are scratching their own itch and they've really fallen in love with the problem, but we just don't know if that problem is worth solving. And so we really want to make sure that we're talking to users in a really specific design thinking way so we can understand how they're solving that problem today and why they might pay for a piece of technology to do that. So I know that statistic is a little bit painful, but it's really something to keep at the forefront of your mind when you're talking about your market. So what is customer discovery? I think it's known by a lot of different things, like gathering requirements, understanding the voice of the customer, building personas, doing design thinking. But truly, in a nutshell, what we're saying is get out and talk to real people, test your assumptions and ideas before you build anything. And what we see a lot, and I see founders get tripped up on this, and of course I'm not a founder, and I'm so maybe envious but also terrified of founders, because I think you guys are all amazing and you do amazing things and you have this crazy resilience, and I get to spend a lot of time with them. And what I just hope they have learned through this process of being at Cultivator is we have their back, but mostly we want to make sure that they're building the right things for the right people. So we don't want them to build anything until they've talked to a ton of users. So I just have 3 quick takeaways for you here, which is cast a wide net and start to generate a following. So figuring out a way that you can maybe reach lots of users, you can maybe think about viral, how can you use different tools? There's so much technology out there today that can get you in front of users, attending events like this today, chatting with people. But there's a great Twitter thread on this about how you can be a non-technical founder or not know a lot about technology and still communicate with customers in a really valuable way. So I dropped that tweet in there, but just something to think about is there are people out there that you can ask really strategic questions to that can help shape your solution, but you need a lot of opinions. So is 50 enough? Is 100 enough? And how do you aggregate that data? So there's a great tweet there if you'd like to read it about that. The second thing I would say is just this concept of being absolutely relentless in your pursuit of the problem. So I'm going to also drop another tweet in here, which is Brian Chesky, who's the CEO and founder of Airbnb, just recently asked all of his Twitter followers what features they would actually like to have in Airbnb. And he consolidated all of that data and he shared it publicly and said, these are the things we're working on. He responded to every single tweet and said, this is why we're working on this, this is why we're not working on it. And this is a really good idea or it's not. And so I think what I'm trying to showcase here is that you might do a lot of customer discovery in the early phases of your business, but it's something that's never, ever going to end. It's something that you're going to have to do forever. So you have to get really comfortable with it and you have to be really good at it in order to make sure that you're really pursuing what that customer wants. And then, of course, one other thing I'll share here, and I'll reference back to my pal Ash from Lean Stack, and I've just dropped a link in there as well, is your solution will change, and it will change a lot. And it might change into something completely different than what you originally thought. But your solution probably isn't for you, because you might be your customer right now, but you might not be the vast majority of your customer. And ultimately, your friends might not be your customer. And so it will change. And I think the sooner you get to be okay with that and you accept that as a part of, the future, I think that's where I've seen lots of founders thrive. So I'll wrap it up here in just a few seconds. I promise I won't drop too many links, but I did have a few additional resources for you. So once again, I'll drop those in the chat here. So just a couple more things you can read on customer discovery and why here at Cultivator we're customer obsessed. And then I had a few book recommendations. These are things that have kind of helped me through my startup journey. So a couple that are customer specific, but a couple just in general that I think you would like. I also dropped those titles in there. The Mom Test, of course, being, I think, the pinnacle of all customer discovery books. And then just a couple ways you can connect with Cultivator coming up. So we do have 24-hour startup. Thanks, Jesse, for shouting that out. And our 3rd birthday coming up on February 4th and 5th. If you did have an idea that maybe you'd want to run through a 24-hour event, this is essentially a hackathon where ideas are pitched and they're picked and teams are formed, and teams have 24 hours to produce a technical MVP and then a 3-minute pitch, and there are cash prizes. There's tons of information about it on our website. That event is coming up here quick. I will also drop that in the chat for you. And then, of course, we are running our START program, START Cohort 6. That's going to run from March until May. So if you would like to apply for that, please visit our website or email hello@cultivator.ca as well. Just a quick more information about 24-hour startup before I leave you with a few stay connected. But if you had any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And of course, I'll be here once the next presenter starts, and I'm happy to answer. I'm just going to look at the Q&A box in case I missed anything. Perfect. Well, Kara, that was it for me, unless you had any questions that I can answer.
That is excellent. Thank you very much. And happy 3rd birthday, Cultivator.
Thank you.
Exciting.
I feel like I've aged about 30 years, but
that is awesome. So thank you so much, Hannah, for your time and sharing your wisdom with us, and a ton of resources in the chat. That was amazing. I don't know how
no
you
problem.
could talk and copy and paste at the same time, because I can't. So well done.
It's been a long year of this. Thanks, guys.
I also see Jesse's in the chat. Jesse's from Startup TNT, and Jesse, if you're paying attention right now, if you wouldn't mind putting your link in the chat as well, because that's another amazing resource for entrepreneurs who are looking for funding to getting their tech startup going, and also if you're interested in doing some investing yourself. So Jesse's the person you want to chat with about that one. So thanks, Jesse. All right, so the next presentation we have, so we've got Aaron from SaskTech, and we're ready for your wisdom, Aaron.
Not a whole lot of that here. I wasn't anticipating having to drop things into the chat, but I will. So that's my LinkedIn. But as was suggested by the epic Twitter threads that Hannah shared, I actually tend to do a lot more of that myself. So you're welcome to follow me on Twitter and participate in that conversation. A moment about myself. I'm the father of 3 boys, and the husband to a professor of veterinary medicine at University of Saskatchewan, which plugs me into all of the post-secondary drama that you could possibly want. And I toured as a singer in a band, in an a cappella band, for 10 years, which gives you a unique approach to entrepreneurship, guarantees that you're going to live below the poverty line. And after that, I went off and decided that I needed to actually have a real job. So I got a PhD in computer science, which was also foolish. But then I got lucky and I joined Solido Design Automation, which was a small startup at the time. 4 years ago, that got acquired by Siemens, which is the largest software company in the world. And now I work for them and have for the last 4 years, where I manage a team of technical salespeople. Somewhere in the middle of that, I ended up involved in the self-organization of our technology and innovation sector in the province, and we formed SaskTech. And so this is where I stopped talking about myself and start talking about everything interesting that's happening in the province. And just to put this in perspective, this was the second time really that this sector tried to self-organize. The first one being 15 to 20 years ago, kind of around the boom and bust in the web sector, and the momentum was really lost, much in the way that momentum in the tech sector was lost kind of worldwide for a few years, and that group really didn't persist. And then about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, the government of Saskatchewan came to a few of the leaders in Saskatoon at the time and said, we see an emerging sector of the economy. We have no idea what it's about or who to talk to about it. Can you help us by forming something and that will allow us to understand what we can do as a government that might be able to move the needle? We got together. We argued about what a tech company was. We decided we couldn't answer that question. We said that anybody who self-identifies as a tech or innovation company who cares about the issues we care about is welcome to join. And we founded SaskTech. And we decided the only thing that we really all agreed was important and that we wanted government involvement in was labor. And that we saw a real lack of, oh no, Hannah, Hannah's sharing my epic Twitter threads in.
They're so good.
We decided we all cared about labor. There was going to be a lack of labor, a lack of the particular skills that were necessary to meet the digitization needs of not just our sector, but every sector. And so we started pulling whatever strings we had and communicating with government. And we've developed a very good relationship across multiple government ministries, but also in the post-secondary sector, applied research sector, and even the K-12 education system. And we work really hard to take bite-sized chunks from that, like immigration isn't coming in quickly enough, or it's not the right people coming in. How can we fix that? Or we're not seeing the right investment in the sector from these groups of people. How do we construct something and support government as they roll out new initiatives? And that's where the SDSI came from. And it turns out that that's been a very successful advocacy role. Our interest has managed to broaden a little bit, but we focus primarily on trying to ensure that immediate needs through immigration and career training are managed. Medium-term labor stresses are managed through post-secondary institution tuning and hopefully funding. And the long-term ecosystem needs are served by making sure that K-12 system is thinking about technology and innovation as core across every sector, and that they're interesting kids in that. And so we support Saskatoon Industry Education Council and their CAN code applications that teach robotics and coding to kids. We support the University of Saskatchewan, University of Regina, looking for more tenure track faculty in engineering and computer science. We're involved in discussing IP policy with the University of Saskatchewan. Pretty much everything that you can imagine, we end up helping in some way or other. But the agenda is served entirely by, or is driven entirely by our members, who are companies, not people. And so companies are members, and they assign somebody to come and talk to us, and then that's what we have on our board, are the members of those companies who have been assigned to speak. And likewise at the AGM, each company votes on that, which means that the membership is free and you can be part of that. If you have a corporation, you can be a member of SaskTech. And even if you're not a member of SaskTech, we actually want to hear from you. We try not to just represent our members, we try to talk about the entire community as a whole and help them drive forward an agenda that's going to serve the entire community. So we're very, very careful about taking on stuff that is very clearly agreed upon as broadly of value, rather than helping individual companies. So that's where this organization differs quite significantly from Cultivator and Co.Labs. We support them a great deal. Our member companies are heavily involved. Many of our member companies are in their programming right now, but we don't have any resources for you. I'm sorry. All we do is listen to you complain about things like, I can't get the right people to help me with my sales organization. And we say, well, oh, that's actually a problem that everybody has. Let's see if we can't develop some programming at Saskatchewan Polytechnic that's going to help with that. Let's see if we can't find people to immigrate more quickly with those particular skills. Let's see if we can't put together government advertising campaigns to draw people into Saskatchewan, whatever it happens to be. And so that's the kind of scope and the kind of action that we take. So I do want to hear from you. So please do connect on LinkedIn. Please do yell at me over Twitter and complain about stuff, because once you complain about it, then we can start trying to take some action. So I was asked to talk a little bit about building a team. And I've done a lot of this in a variety of different contexts. And I'm really glad that this is about building a team and not collecting a team or hiring a team, because I think that in Saskatchewan we have a problem that's shared around the world, but it's amplified here because we have weather that's minus 43 with the wind chill. And that's that people really don't come here very often. And so we actually need to build from our own resources as much as possible. And as a startup, that's a really critical issue. And I've been advising startups through Foresight Technology Accelerator, through Co.Labs, through Cultivator, for years, and this is a reoccurring pattern, is, well, we need to make the next hire, but there's nobody out there to hire who has all of the skill sets that we want. And it's not unique to startups. I face that every day. And the jobs I look for are personable computer science or engineers, computer scientists or engineers who can really connect and teach and are highly technical, but also know the semiconductor industry in and out. And it turns out that that Venn diagram in Canada is actually doesn't overlap at all. So we've had to build every single person who works for our teams at Siemens. And that really is what I see successful companies doing here in Saskatchewan right now, is building. So I want to talk just a little bit about what resources are available to build those teams. And I'm going to start at the executive level because the first hire that you usually make is trying to find that partner. And the most common thing I see people say is, well, I need somebody in sales to take over. And what I hear happening with all of the professionals with whom I collaborate out in those accelerators and incubators is that actually, no, you don't. If you're the CEO, you are the salesperson. Nobody else is. That's your job. You have to go and learn that task if you don't know it, and you hire the other bits and pieces for it as aggressively as possible first. And so that's kind of the first stumbling block, is how do I learn how to be a salesperson if I'm not a salesperson already? The good news is that we're actually building out that kind of programming right now through Edwards School of Business. They're revamping some of their stuff, but also through the Surge programming at Sask Polytech, which is a micro-credentialing programming. Sales is part of that, but also the third place is that you can pick up a lot of this stuff from going and watching the stuff that's happening at the incubators in the province, and then interacting with the people who are working there and understanding what they're being instructed on, because that's, if you're not lucky enough to be inside those programs, or you don't have the time for it or the energy, you can at least absorb a lot of those materials, get out there and practice the methods. There is a variety of books and other information out there around solution selling, which is really probably the best kind of approach now that seems to be working in our industry. But it's this is kind of one of those philosophical things where everyone will tell you that they have their own pet approach to this. I've been through a bunch of sales programs as well, and the end result is usually that I haven't learned that much more than I've learned by simply going and watching people who are really, really good at it and then trying the things that they do. So the first piece of advice I would provide is build your sales team by becoming the primary salesperson. And in my experience in a startup and scaling company, the CEO remains the front of that sales team for years and years and years and years. And if you look at Vendasta, for instance, Brendan is still the front of that sales team in every way. He might have hired people to be the sales leads, but he is still the best salesperson at that company, and he's the person you want to put in front of any audience that's slightly jaded or suspicious. The second thing is, how do I hire a technical person who's going to be my lead technologist? Where's that CTO coming from? And that's also going to be coming from your first hires. The people who are, because it's very rare to be able to capture somebody with a lot of experience already in industry who's interested in leaping over to a startup. It happens, but you've got to be very compelling off the bat to be able to grab that person. You have to have a relationship with them. You have to build the community so that they're ready to jump ship and feel like there's something there for them. And you might not even be able to pay anywhere approaching market value for them initially. So you have to give up a chunk of your company. So maybe a different avenue is for you to look for people who are passionate about technology earlier in their experience, and you lend them the experience of the entrepreneurship and the building the company, and you let them grow into that over the case of over the period of a year or 2 years as you're getting going. And they will become, as you are, exposed to new people and new ideas through the greater community as your company blossoms. The picking people for knowing a specific technology is really not going to be a good solution. The good person who's going to fit into the role is somebody who is a technologist and can switch language, can go and learn the new language, and even learn the new domain. None of us here at Siemens, and we have now 170 people working in our office, none of us knew anything about semiconductors before we came to work for this company. And now we have a series of people at this company who are amongst the most informed in the world in the specific area of specialty that we have. So you need to take the same approach when you're hiring your technical staff. Expect to train them on the domain, expect to train them on the problem, and then they will come up with you with the solutions and improve that and learn to speak to the solution. If you can solve those kind of big problems, finding that way to become the salesperson, finding that CTO, and applying the same kinds of ideas to marketing and the other senior positions as you start to fill them. And remember, you're filling positions only as your capacity for being able to do that job has been limited, because the opportunities in your primary job of being that front-facing salesperson and driving the strategy of the company is taking more and more of your time. That's when you go and you start filling those other jobs with people that you're working with. As that happens, you're learning the process to also fill all of the lower roles. And that's how we build out our teams. We build out the very, very junior hires, and we train them individually into the role in ways that and as they get trained, we have constant conversations with them saying, what are you interested in? What would you like to be doing next? How do you see yourself fitting into this in 3 years or 5 years? Do you want to be an executive? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a noble technologist, leading a project but not a team? And as you have those conversations, you're both getting to know the people better, and you're finding ways to be able to weave them together into a community that is going to be successful, rather than trying to fit pegs into holes of varying shape and size. And so that is the philosophy that we've taken. That's certainly the philosophy that we've taken because we've seen it successful elsewhere. We didn't invent it. And I think overall, it's made us really happy. I had a new person start, and I'll just finish with this tiny anecdote. I had a new person start last year working for a team that doesn't actually report into me or even into our site. My team helped train them, and I work with them every day. But they're really, their job is different, and they report out through a totally different organization, one that spans the entire globe. Their manager invited me into the growth talk. We have the quarterly conversation with the employee to see how things are going. And the manager in front of me said, so how do you like working with the team? Are there things that you have that are complaints about? And I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't be here for this. And the employee spoke up and he said, this team is just so great. They're passionate. They want to solve all of the problems, and they're a community that support each other. And I see that happening all the time. There are small things that bother me every now and then, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And so getting to the point where there's a sense of belonging for even very new people, because they're being enabled to take the path that they want, and you're trying to weave that into a total, is the way that we found most successful and rewarding for building a team. So that's the moderate wisdom that I can impart. Kara, I think it's back to you. I'm happy to take some more questions as well as we go. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks so much, Aaron. It's such a big topic, and I feel a lot calmer now, actually, about that topic, because it can be pretty stressful trying to build that team. So you kind of made it seem super simple somehow. So appreciate your wisdom. So we have like 2 minutes left. So if anyone wants to sneak in a question before we go, you have like 10 seconds to type it in. But while we're doing that, I want to just, I want to say a huge thank you to Hannah and Aaron and Anu for spending their evening with us and letting us know a little bit more about them and what they do and sharing that wisdom. That is absolutely fantastic. We packed a lot in tonight, so I think that's absolutely excellent. So I don't see any questions that popped up, so I will let you all go for the evening, and you all have a wonderful night, and thanks very much for joining us.